Hey, everybody. This is Brenda Edelman and Kirsten Lazar. And I am so excited to be here for episode 5, actually, of Tell Your Secrets on Stage. I did a bunch of 4 a couple months ago, and now we're going 4th. I guess brought to you by Soul Story Lounge, which is my inner circle, my paid community. And actually, Kirsten is a member there, but I brought her on because not only is she a member there, but she's working on a one-person show telling her secrets on stage. And you have already told your secrets on stage in a book. So can you introduce yourself for the audience?
Yes. So first of all, such an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Kirsten Leisure, and I wrote and published my memoir in 2019. And after the book came out, I was kind of like, is this all there is? Like, okay, I told my Facebook crowd and, marketed it somewhat. And then it was kind of like crickets right after that initial publication. So I really started to realize that this story wanted to be told again in a different way. And so that's when I came across you, Brenda, and your work. And I felt, yeah, this story needed to be voiced. And so that's what brought me here. And I see you put on headset. Should I put on a headset?
I did. Can you hear me though?
I can, yeah.
The reason I put it on is because in the property over to the side, all of a sudden workers came. So I'm like,
Okay.
oh, so I do hear you either way.
Okay.
So it's okay. You said several really interesting things there. You said you wrote your book, which is filled with something that you could call was a major secret for a lot of your life. And I don't even know, like now it's out there with the world, but it's like a lot of things we have in our past. Nobody really knows what we've been through. So it's still kind of a secret, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. My family did not know anything about my story until that book came out. Like they knew nothing.
Wow. Did you warn them or no? Because this is, as someone who has helped over 200 people get on stage with their secrets for the most part. Did you warn them? Did you feel like it, or did you feel like I can't because I won't go forth with what I need to do if I warn or tell them what's happening?
Yeah. Um, there was obvious, I'll back up just a little bit. In the writing of the story, it was really important for me to, and of course that fear and doubt comes in of like, what will they think? And are they going to speak to me anymore? Am I just going to be disowned? So all those fears kind of come up, and it was really important for me to, in the first couple drafts, just write as it was and not police my thoughts and not hold back on anything and just let it be catharsis for me. So that was kind of first 2 drafts. And then by the 3rd draft, that's when I was really thinking about my audience. How do I craft this story so that my audience wants to turn the page? So that, because I'm writing about pretty weird supernatural stuff and stuff that not everybody's going to believe. And I had
It might be a place for you to share some of that if you would like to.
absolutely. So part of my
Because what I will say is I'm actually helping you turn your book into a one-person show. So I'm fascinated by your story. I'd never been exposed to the stories you're sharing, and to me it's like, well, it's so juicy. Go ahead.
Okay, so the juicy story starts with the death of my mother, and about 6 months after her death, I meet a psychic who, in all pretenses, seems to be helping me through this painful time in my life. And in reality, she's really opening up my energetic field to dark magic, black magic, and voodoo. Of course, I don't know any of this at the time. And what happens to me is I basically develop symptoms of a kind of demonic spiritual pregnancy. So almost think Rosemary's Baby, but without the actual physical baby. It's an energetic thing. And I lived with this for about 4 years, on and off, for about 4 years, I had these symptoms. And this is what I kept secret from everybody. And, I sought out various modalities to try to solve it. And I won't say the ending of the story and how how it all turns out, but there is resolution. And so, yeah, there are some pretty powerful, crazy things. And so I wasn't so much focused on my family or what they would think. Otherwise, I wouldn't have written the book. Like, it would have just stopped me dead in my tracks and it wouldn't have gotten written. And I had this calling really from the universe. Each time I wanted to give up, the universe was like, wasn't going to have it. Like, it wasn't letting me. And I kept feeling this burden on my shoulders. Like, you have to publish, you have to publish, you have to write this book. And so, so I wanted to craft the story so that the audience would turn the page. And so once I got to that point, I had gone through several drafts, and with each draft was another level of healing. And of course, you're going through time, so that's giving you some distance from the events, from the painful events. And so by the time I got to that point, I was like, I'm not going to warn my family. I'm going to say, here's my story. There are some bits that you're in. And I knew, like, at that point, I had crafted those scenes with intentional love. And even though if they might have played a role that wasn't so, like, great, that I, in each scene, and I developed their character so that by the end of the book, that their character had evolved, their character had changed, and there was that healing and light in each of their stories. So I had really felt at peace with the way that I told it. And so I just said, okay, I'm going to send you my book. And I just prayed that it would be okay. And it really was. It really, really was. And so now when I bring it forth in this one woman show, I want to take the same approach and share these stories and each character from a place of love as best I can.
Yeah, I really love that because your way of working with your story is how I teach with presentation, which is you don't vilify anybody. Like, you still tell the truth, and there's a big difference. Like, for those of you who don't, know my story, my father killed my mother. I don't whitewash my story in my one woman show. I say what happened. I act as him, but I put I put the levels in of how complex relationships are. They're not just one thing, or one person isn't just one way. So also, it's so important what you said, that you didn't reach out to people who you were even writing about for approval. It's not their life. It's your life, and after, helping 200 people tell their stories on stage, I can really say, the people who don't tell their stories, whether it's in a book or on a stage or in interviews, are the ones who are, they're adults, but they're living smaller than who they could be because they haven't owned their stories. Oh, we have some guests here. Great. Myra says, book into show. Book into show. Exactly. Oh, that's great. I think that's going to be my next course. Book into show. That's big, Kirsten. I'm working on a show also, sending you good juju, and see you in Soul Story Lounge too as we craft our works. Yes, and Myra is another wonderful member of my inner circle. So excited to have you here. So I think there are a lot of people that are afraid to tell so-called secrets. And I think of a secret as something that I feel like maybe I shouldn't tell it. It's something private in the family, but I really do believe we're as sick as our secrets. Like, I cannot even imagine what you went through for those 4 years where you weren't telling anyone. Like, that's where there's so much opportunity to heal if we know that we can share in a safe way with someone,
Yes, absolutely. It's like, I think of the Brene Brown, where she talks about shame, and how do you heal shame? Well, you bring it to a safe space that can touch light, that you can be seen, and it can just be as it is, and just have that presence of witness, right? So the first people I shared my story with, you have to trust, you have to really have that safe space, which you so with such grace provide such a space in your circle. I didn't know that you existed when I was going through what I was going through. And so, the few people I let in to read my manuscript, and, I couldn't imagine going to a writer's class, because in my mind, I was like, other writers are just going to, bash my writing. And I'm not ready for that kind of critique. I'm not healed enough yet. So it's really, really important to choose that safe space where I could be supported in telling the story, getting it on page first and foremost for myself. That was number one catharsis. Like, when I was first writing, just crying these words on the page in some scenes, and then getting it to a space where it's like, okay, I'm ready to tell other people. And I remember I moved from Santa Monica. I had lived there for 13 years, and I was ready to move to Sedona. And I felt like that I had to somehow change locations to actually publish.
Interesting. Well, and Sedona is so spiritual. Interesting.
So spiritual, right? And I remember vividly, like, when I finished the book, I was in my kitchen, and the view was of the Red Rocks. And anytime I thought, what am I doing? Why am I telling my story? It's all about me. Nobody wants to hear this, right? All these thoughts
themselves, yeah.
Right. And I would just look at the Red Rocks, and they would remind me, like, this is not even your story anymore. This is something that you experienced so that you could tell it and heal others with it. This is not even about you anymore. And I was like, oh yeah, right? Like, there's this huge world, and these experiences are just flowing through me, and I'm bearing witness to it now, and getting to share my story is an honor. So
yeah. I really love that. And it is interesting how I have so many like touch points with clients, because I lived in Santa Monica, I lived in Sedona. I really know the reference, and I know the beauty, and I know how palpable the energy in Sedona is, and how you can't not realize you're one with the universe there. I love what you said about the fact that you got to that point where you got out of your own way. You got out of your head and was like, no, there's something that's supposed to move through me. And I feel like, all of my work, whether it's in my one-woman show, my Brooklyn Hamlet, or helping my clients tell their stories, is about where you go, the healing that takes place because of what happened. So you're no longer asking, why is this happening to me? But okay, this happened. How can I thrive? And for those of you who are brave enough to share your story, and that's why you're here, that's part of your purpose, to be like, okay, well, now how can I share it? In which way? How do I reach the most people? That's why, like, the book is one thing, but like you said you wrote the book, but then it's like, where do you get the readers from? And actually presenting and doing a one-person show is how you kind of combine it all, so that you do your show, you do your talk, and then you sell the book, which of course has more and different information in it because it's a different modality,
Yes.
And it's so good that you didn't, well, this was the thing I wanted to say. You sent it to people in your family, and you kind of prayed that it would be okay. But I also feel like it sounds like you were really intentional. So it was more than just praying it's okay. It's more like, I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I hope they're on board.
Yes.
It didn't sound like there was like, oh, they're going to do this and then I'm going to stop. Like, it sounded like you built up your strength as you wrote onto the pages of your book what you'd been through. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's absolutely correct. Yeah, at that point, nothing was going to stop me from publishing it. Nothing was going to stop me from telling my story. Not a reaction, not, that I understood as, okay, whoever reads this, whatever reaction they have, that's theirs. it's not necessarily a reflection of
Yes.
me. It's not
Yes.
necessarily a reflection of my worthiness. It's not a reflection of should I or shouldn't I? No, it's like I own this story. This is my experience. However, someone else interprets it after that, it's not my responsibility. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So many people are, I think, over responsible for other people. Instead of knowing we're all divine, we're all connected, all can get help. I always say that, like, even when we say things that are bad about other people, or like it wasn't a pleasant experience, um, if someone else hears it, a family member, and I'm not even talking about your book, but in other people where they had like they had really abusive family members, it's like you're giving that person an opportunity to step up and take responsibility on their own. You're not responsible for what they did or for your feelings about it, but you are actually giving them an opportunity to see your perspective, and then they can step up. So if you can't even do it for yourself, it's like, think about the fact that you're not actually helping them by not sharing it, and of course without vilifying and everything like that.
Mhm.
So do you remember how you found me?
Yes. I knew the Ulofs. Hank and Sharon Ulof were living here in Sedona. I met them. They were helping small business owners, market their things. And at the time, I was really struggling because I'd left this life in LA that I knew very well. And I had this identity. I was an English teacher. I was a bar teacher. That was my thing. And then I moved to Sedona, and I tried repeating those things to, and really the universe met me with, like, we're closing this door. We're closing this door. And like all these doors, everything that was working for me before suddenly was not working anymore. And I was driven more and more and more into, all you need to do, Kirsten, it's really simple, is tell your story. That's it. Tell your story. Of course, I was trying to run away from that, like
So
a crazy
simple.
woman,
Yeah.
right? So I was seeking all of these helpers, and they came into my field as a helper. And Sharon, actually, when she discovered that I had written this book and she read the book, she's like, "Wow, this is amazing! Like, I couldn't put it down." And now Hank is reading it. She's like, "You should check out Brenda Edelman's work." And so I think she connected me or tagged me in one of your posts on Facebook, and I started following you. And I think that was right around the time that you started Soul Story Lounge. And I was like, yeah, I want to be a part of this. Not knowing that I was going to do a one woman show. Like, that was
You
not
were in my
even
lair. Yeah.
right. It was not even, I just wanted to get connected to my voice, because I have always thought of my first language as being dance. I express myself the best through the body. I'm pretty convinced I'm from I'm a starseed from some planet where we just dance to communicate. Okay. Like,
I
that's
love
where I
that.
live. That's my home. And then the second modality of expression is writing. I've always been a really strong writer, but I've always felt like I can't express myself. Like, I can't vocalize what I'm feeling. And I have a hard time confronting people. And I have a hard time, just um, showing up in that way. And I was like, okay, I think of course, as a entrepreneur, like, you have to show up and you have to speak. And so that's how, and you held, like, knowing your story, I was so comfortable with, like, okay, I'm like, she's gonna get me, because when you go through these things, there's such depth. You've
Right.
navigated the waters, right? Like, you've gone through
Right.
the deep depths. And I was like, I really resonate with that. I don't resonate with these other, not that there's anything wrong with it, but it just seemed very shallow to me, of do this, do that, try this strategy, try that strategy. And I was like,
Right.
there's something else here, and I need to work with Brenda, because she
Yay.
gets the depth of where I want to go and where I've been.
Yeah, it's like going within to tell the story versus all the strategies and the formulas, and you do this and you do that and blah blah blah. It's like, yes, and first have it be so much more powerful than that by going into the biggest resource, which is within you, connected to something bigger. I don't know who Sharon and Hank are. I probably do, or they've seen my show. That's interesting. I got to look them up or and thank them. I've been doing my one woman show, my Brooklyn Hamlet, for so many years, and I did it in Sedona, several times. So that's super cool. Well, I'm so glad. I love that too, because oftentimes I find my clients, it really feels like just like there's something bigger that's like, here you go. Like you said, you feel like you went through what you did so you could get this story out there partly. I feel the same way. Like I lived through my father taking my mother's life and the path it took me on, or I chose to heal at such a deep level from that devastation. All the tools I got, all the support I got, all the people I hired, the masters in spiritual psychology, the coaching, and then all my clients, it's like it all took me to this path so that I could hold the space, so that I can help. I really feel like help birth other people's stories and messages in the world. Like you have a message coming together. We just talked privately, did a session like, do you want to talk more about what you think your message is as you are putting, your show is going to, by the way, everyone, your full-length show is going to be done like probably, well, you're going to have a production in Sedona when it's done, and then we'll probably be showcasing it virtually like I used to do in person beforehand soon. You just did a scene, the open mic, so great, like I'm so happy. But do you know what that message is yet?
I think there are just so many messages, and I think the one that seems super relevant to me at this moment is, as we're navigating these times, 2023, whoa, what a last like couple years we've experienced on this planet. I feel that there is this great unveiling that's happening, a kind of apocalypse. People hear the word apocalypse and they think fire and brimstone and destruction and all that. Apocalypse really means the unveiling, the coming forth of great truth. And it's the kind of truth that shatters your previous paradigm, which is a false paradigm, a false matrix. So I think one of the gifts of my story is I know what it's like to subscribe to a false way of being in the world, right? Of kind of attaching yourself to a lie because you were too hurt at that time. You were too scared or too much in the pain to actually heal a wound. And so we create a kind of lie so that we can attach our identity to that so it doesn't hurt as much. But the truth is, like, the truth will always come out. The truth always prevails. And actually, your real self, your soul, always knows truth. And so when the time is right, when you're ready for it, truth sets us free. It breaks us wide open. And I think as a collective right now, humanity is experiencing a lot of these truths, right? Whether it's like, oh my gosh, I twisted myself up to do this job that I hate, or, I really was invested in this way of being, but I'm hit with the truth that that's not working anymore, right? I think COVID really forced us into looking at a lot of aspects of our lives and saying, wow, I do that. I built this whole false matrix around that paradigm. That's not working anymore. What's the truth of who I really am? What's the truth of really what wants to come forward? And so I think at the heart of my story, it's really about that experience of awakening to one's own truth, one's own power, being able to reclaim your power when you gave it away, and realize that it never left you.
Yeah, I really like that. I think one of the through lines, so, when I'm helping clients also develop their themes and things like that, it's like there's your personal story, and then how does it tie into a bigger story, even if people didn't go through the circumstance you did or the circumstance that I did, how does it reach that humanity within. And one of the important things in your piece is that it's that place of vulnerability that you were in, that's where the lie came in. That's where it's like when we're vulnerable, that's when it's really important to be surrounded by a community of people who are strong and see your strength, because that's where, even for internet marketers, that's where you buy the program that is going to fix everything for you, or you go, you invest in someone, or you give them over their power, or you get into a relationship that isn't healthy. So it's really all about when you're vulnerable. And that's why my process, the soul story process, is about how do you fill yourself up with so much self-love so that you make those decisions from truth, so that it's your truth versus whatever marketing is happening or whatever we think will fix us or help the pain go away or something like that. Deb wrote something. I love this, you guys. Going in instead of formulas and how to. That's what I'm all about too. Yet can't say I haven't been addicted or lured to follow the shiny object syndrome. So you wrote that right before we said that, but yeah, it's so true, right? And that was another thing with the pandemic, though. Everybody was in and they were looking at their lives differently. Some people got very depressed, or a lot of mental health things and stuff like that. But then here's the internet and there's shiny object syndrome and all this stuff. So it was a really interesting time. There was also like looking at not what you don't want to do anymore, but also like really appreciating what you did do, because there was an element of life might never be the same. So who do you want to spend time with and stuff like that? Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with? I'm hoping you're going to tell your story next week in my free challenge, which I'll talk about in a second, because I am going to give people an opportunity to tell their stories. But is there something you'd like to leave the audience with?
Yeah, it was actually an epiphany I had after our one-on-one session this morning. And, because transitioning from writing a book, which, by the way, took about 7 years for me, because I realized after the first couple drafts, I was like, oh, I have no idea how to write a book.
At least you then learned before you published.
So then I had to learn how to structure it, and how to keep my audience interested in the story I was telling. And one of the things that has been so great working with you is, okay, now that I have the book, like, it's a totally other thing to bring it on stage and to act and to perform, right? This is another layer of healing that I'm experiencing now with this. And it's so powerful. And, you so ingeniously, are able to help me. And I see you working with other clients, but just find those access points where we can really access it's very childlike for me. Like, at first when I started acting, I think I used the word goofy. I'm like, oh, I feel really goofy right now, right? It's that childlike play almost that I'm reconnecting with. It's so easy when you're a child. Like, you just play pretend all the time. Like, let's pretend this, let's pretend that. It's so easy, right? And I was like, wow, it's so beautiful, because it's like this story, and now bringing in that childlike innocence of like, how do I play this role? How do I play this character? And it's almost as if this innocence, this light, I see it as like a golden light, just encapsulating the whole story, bringing it to life in a new way with purity. So I think this is what we're here to do on planet Earth right now. We didn't come in here to experience like joyous heaven all the time. We're in process of making heaven on earth. I think this is, my soul's mission overall. Certainly, it's like, how can I bring heaven on earth? So we come and we experience the muck and the dark and the stuff, and then we can transmute it and alchemize it into our art, into our gift to the world. So yeah, that's thank you.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, there is this element of healing that happens. So writing, you heal. That was first step for me too. But then, at least the way I teach, you're fully jumping into the story. You're not reliving it, but you're jumping into it in a way that like integrates all parts of us. And you get to play and you get to scream and you get to cry and you get to look bad, and it doesn't matter, you know, in rehearsal, not on stage in front of it's but that rehearsal is important for that. It's like to know that you can make mistakes, like do it where, you know, in class or in Soul Story Lounge or someplace, so that when the stakes are higher and you really want to make that impact, it's powerful. It's as powerful as it can be, versus what I see is people get out there and they haven't really been taught how to fully embody what they're saying. So their story might be great, but it's not landing. And that's why I'm so passionate about, you know, teaching people how to present it. And for you, it's so important because, well, I just love that you were like, I wasn't sure how to express myself or how to, now you look at the breakthrough today in the one-on-one. I'm like, it's so fun for me to witness people step into their full expression. And I remember what it was like for me in acting class in my 20s. It was like, oh, I can express this here. Like, this is okay. And then, of course, you bring it into your life and you get to express yourself more. So just to wrap it up, I am doing a free challenge, Tell Your Soul Story for Impact and Income. So if you found this valuable, I mean, this is timely. Some people will watch this afterwards, but on Monday, February 13th, free lessons every day. Actually, I've done bonus trainings this week. So if you head into my group, Soul Story Tribe, I'm actually going on at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time today, just in about a half an hour, to answer questions on healing from your story. And next week is more about presenting, getting past the resistance, and actually having an opportunity to tell your story. So I think that's it. Thank you, everybody. Oh, you want to share how people can reach you and stuff like that?
Sure, yeah. My website is kirstynlazier.com, Kirstyn. Last name is Laz, like zebra, UR.
Right, I pronounce it wrong every single time. Okay.
And you can see my book on the page and a little bit more about it there. My book is available for sale on Amazon. And yeah, just put it out there that I let people know what you're doing even before you do it, because that's really how, ever since I announced that I was doing a one-woman show, which I, again, kept secret from the world for a while, but when I announced it a couple weeks ago, I got such an outpouring of support. I had people messaging me saying, I want to be in the audience. I had people saying, I have a space for you to perform in. I had people saying, I will look at your script, or if you want to run a scene by me, let me know. This is what I do. I can offer feedback. I mean, it was just confirmation that the universe was like, yes, yes, and yes, tell the story. So anyways.
That's so great. And that is why I teach this, because I teach you, my clients, to be excellent at what you do also. And when you mix that excellence with passion, people come around. They want to help that. People want to feel alive. They want to make a difference. And if they're not the ones set on center stage, they want to be a part of that. So that makes me so happy. That's happening for you and Susan, who is my other current VIP client. It's like you guys are just getting so much opportunity. I'm so honored to help develop and direct these pieces. Oh, the one last thing I was going to say, because there is a video inside of Soul Story Tribe, and you were talking about how fun it is to kind of be in character and stuff. I did a training yesterday, day 4 of the pre-challenge week training, on how to jump into character, use costumes and wigs and things like that to access your emotions when you might not be in a place where you can access them yet. So everybody head on in there. Deb says, thank you. You're welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Kirstyn, for being here. And Kirstyn. Okay. Bye. Bye, everyone.